Morning, everyone. On this cold, blistery December 1, 2025, Rotary Club of Ames noon meeting. Thank you for joining us today and coming out and braving it. Let's go ahead and start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have anyone to keep in our hearts and prayers? I didn't have any on my list, but let's just think of some loved ones recently and take a moment of silence here. Okay, thank you, everyone. We have a few guests here to welcome today. I'm going to start with Randy over here. Randy's got a guest. I'd like to turn it over to him for just a brief second.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My pleasure to welcome a guest to the club, Melissa O'Neill. She's the CEO of the Central Iowa Shelter and also interim CEO and leadership for the Bridge Home here in Ames. Melissa, do you want to say a couple words?
I warned him not to give me a microphone, but really do appreciate getting to join the club today. I'm a Rotarian in Des Moines as well, and been meaning to try and get up here and meet all of you for some time. So thoughts and prayers, please keep those that are unhoused and unsheltered in your thoughts and prayers right now. With the extreme temperatures, we're seeing a huge escalation of need, not just in our shelter in Des Moines, but here at the Bridge Home in Ames as well. And working hard to expand those beds, hopefully by Wednesday here at the Bridge Home. So minus 10 degree temperature is coming on Thursday if you haven't seen that overnight weather forecast yet, which means it's the difference between life and death on the streets right now. So please keep people in your thoughts and prayers, and our staff as well. Staff takes a really big hit this time of year. You know, they do this with a big heart, serving on that front line every single day. And when you see that increased need, our compassion sometimes gets a little fatigued, and so we need your help and your thoughts there too. So thank you all for letting me join today. Appreciate it and hope to get to know all of you a little better. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you for Melissa for being here with us, and you're from the Des Moines Thursday Rotarian as well, right?
Yeah.
Yep, perfect. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Next, I'm going to have our guest speaker. Myrna is one of our guests as well, Myrna Johnson. She's going to introduce three other guests that we have here as well today.
Yeah, we have kind of an IPR takeover today. So I'm Myrna Johnson, Executive Director at Iowa Public Radio, and I have with me Jason Burns, who is our Director of Finance and Ops. You want to wave? And he's based, all of these are sort of based in Ames or Ames area. Lynn Jones-Folsom is our Director of Finance and Operations, and Chase Abner is on our development team, on our fundraising team. And we're all here in the Ames area, so I thought it would be fun for you all to get to know them.
Perfect. Thank you for being here today. Let's turn it over to Louis to go ahead and welcome song. Welcome to you from Ames Rotary, Nevada, London, you don't want to hear me sing. From the far off lands or the USA. We're glad that you are here today. Come back again whenever you're near. Join us and we'll make it clear. Around the world you'll always be welcome at Rotary. Thank you, Louis. I believe we have birthdays, December birthdays and anniversaries. So if you're up there on the birthday, happy birthday. We're going to sing to you here in a second. And then we actually have anniversaries for December. Those that were brave enough to set a date in December, here you go. Happy anniversary. So let's go ahead and do our fun and combined happy birthday and anniversary song. Happy birthday and anniversary to you. Happy birthday and anniversary to you. Happy birthday and anniversary. Happy birthday and anniversary to you. Nice job. We're getting better at that. Even myself. Thank you, Louis. Appreciate it. Let's give Louis a round of applause there. Excellent. And membership. So I thought of this today when I saw Ken's name up there. Being the senior on this membership list of 40 years, Ken, do you have any advice you want to give everybody, or just any kind of comment you'd like to make your 40 years of being a Rotarian? Wait for a mic. I think you got something to say.
I think attendance is very important. Enjoy the meals, enjoy the company, and be one of us.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. Congratulations to everyone on the list there. Quite an accomplishment. And now I'm going to have a membership campaign. I'm going to have Randy come up and talk a little bit about membership.
Thanks, Jamie. I'll be brief today. Gave a bit of a pitch at our last meeting. Just want to refresh everybody's memory who may not have been here before. We're working on a bit of a membership campaign for the club. We have the opportunity to drive a little bit of new life into our organization. We've been asking for your suggestions on potential members of the club. You know, we can't necessarily control someone's decision to join, but we can certainly control how many names are in our hopper that we're asking to join. And so for that, our membership committee is asking for your help. On your tables, you'll see small white pieces of paper with names. We started this campaign a couple of weeks ago. I am thrilled to tell you that we've added 25 names to our prospective member list. Yeah, that is great. That's a good start. My internal goal quickly is to get up to 100 names initially. We're going to do some follow-up with these folks over the month of December, invite folks to join us for a Monday meeting, really just share the opportunity that exists within our Ames Noon Rotary group. So thank you in advance for helping us brainstorm some names of people you might know from your circles who could be good Rotarians with us. It won't require you to even make the ask. Our membership committee will work on that. Diane, thanks for joining that group. We're going to try to build that group out to about 3 or 4 or 5 of us that are going to do some follow-up with the folks. It's really just sharing the opportunity that all of you know about Rotary and the opportunity to do service beyond self. So, does anyone have any questions for me? Go ahead. I'd be happy to. Yeah, an email to me or to Allison, just the typical Rotary Club of Ames. We've got several that are working on building kind of this list, and we're going to do some tracking on it. And we won't be obviously making hard sells. You know, that's not our intent, but really the opportunity is to share the opportunity of Rotary with others, give them the chance to learn a little bit more, and maybe that'll be a decision that they choose to make. And the thought would be that we'd, make some periodic follow-ups, but if someone tells us, no, that's not for me, great, they'll get pulled off the list. We just really appreciate you as Rotarians helping us build that list so we can do some follow-up with. If you want to end up doing your own invitations, excellent. Go ahead and note it. The name is still important for us as we track these targets. We're going to kind of control our prospecting list, so to speak, work that list up to 100 as our first target and see where we go from there. So thanks very much for your help, and we'll keep giving you updates periodically on how our progress is. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Randy, for that update. Membership is how we drive, and appreciate all of that. Ken does have another thing he wants to talk about. Bob Grathwall. former member, lost his wife this last week. So we'll try to get something on our website for that. Thank you, Ken, for sharing that. Next, before I go too much further, today we had to use some of the Plex's real knives. So let's not throw those away. Let's make sure we've got a spot over here for those, and make sure we collect those back and we'll get those washed up. So don't be like my nephews and just, oops, that went into the trash. Sorry if you're watching, nephews. So we're going to go to social media campaign. I'm going to have Lisa come up for a minute here and talk about that.
You could have mentioned about the knives before we ate and started getting rid of our plates, Jamie, because you gave me a little panic for a minute. But then I was like, okay, no, I did use a plastic knife. So with that, so I'm kind of chairing right now the social media campaign, and this really kind of goes in collaboration with our membership drive as well. It's because we really want to showcase what value people can get out of being a member of Rotary. And so on the table, and we're going to continue having these on tables, are these kind of grayish little forms. It's got like 4 questions on. If you would just write on there kind of why you're a Rotarian or what value you get from Rotarian. And then I'm going to start after the first of the year, because I told Allison I just can't commit during the holidays. So after the first of the year, starting to post on our social media page of, why be a part of Rotary, but also put in there, days that we have our meetings. So it's not always just a membership's comments. And if you don't want to write your full name, if you would just even put, just so people see that it's a real person that's making comments, your first name and last initial, or even if you just prefer a first name, would be great, so that when I post these that I've got, someone can see that it's a comment by someone from the club. So if you do these, I will collect these. If I'm not here, please give them to Allison. I can also have Allison make sure that my email's out, because you could email it to me as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for working on that. I should have made mention, you're right, if you used a real knife. You don't have to go get the plastic ones out of the garbage, so don't worry about that. Next on our list here, it's my pleasure to introduce, I'm going to have Tammy actually do the formal introduction of our guest speaker today. Have you come on up, Tammy.
Thank you, Jamie. My mic comes off like it doesn't do a work. There we go. Welcome, everyone. As you can see, I'm kiting out my IPR stuff. I have the socks, last year's winter socks, my hat from a few years ago, and my newest T-shirt. So it's a pleasure to welcome Myrna Johnson, who's Executive Director of Iowa Public Radio. Before I read her formal bio, I just wanted to share, I came to Iowa State in 2015, about the same time Myrna did. And Warren isn't here today, and I'm sad about that. Warren suggested we have Myrna here today, and she and I answered up through Warren when we both came to Iowa State. So we sat in department heads together for a number of years. It was really, Warren did such a great job of welcoming us and making us feel welcome on campus with his longtime department heads that were also there. And we went through the pandemic together. It was a tough time for both of us. Cuts were being made, and Stevens and IPR were 2 on that list that they were talking about. So we spent some time together during that process as well. So over the last 12 years, Johnson has led IPR through a period of significant change, guiding a transition of IPR's 27-station network from university-owned to community-owned, reformulating IPR's governance structure and leading IPR through a successful first-ever comprehensive campaign. She has grown the IPR newsroom and established a successful digital footprint, including an award-winning newspaper portfolio, which the new one is called Chatter, right? I like that one too. Johnson serves on the board of National Public Radio. Her prior experience includes running the Boston Schoolyard Initiative, managing the National Forum on Children and Nature, serving as VP of Government Affairs for the Iowa Outdoor Industry Association, and working 8 years in the National Affairs Department of National Public Radio. Johnson has a BA from Wartburg College and an MPA from the Harvard Kennedy School. She grew up in Ruthven, Iowa, and currently lives north of Ames. Let's welcome Myrna.
Thanks, Tammy. I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for having me here. I have in the past been a Rotarian, but haven't been able to make it a part of my week in recent years. But what a great organization. And the values that you have are very similar to the values of Iowa Public Radio. If you look, engagement, inclusiveness, integrity, service, all of those things are things that we truly care about at Iowa Public Radio. This is our new branding, IPR, interesting, personal, and real. IPR is where news and music and culture really meet. We think of ourselves as a community provider. We're a community-based public radio network. We now have a multimedia presence. We provide free local news and music to Iowans. We are an independent nonprofit now, advised by a volunteer board, which most recently Warren Madden did just roll off our board, but Warren has been so important in the establishment of Iowa Public Radio, but also in the governing of it over the last, since the beginning of Iowa Public Radio. He was a founding board member. Let's see if I can make this work. There we go. Our history of serving Iowans started more than 100 years ago. You might remember that we celebrated our centennial a few years ago. And the stations that are over 100 years old, one of them is WOI here in Ames, and the other one is WSUI at the University of Iowa. And they received some of the very first licenses ever provided by the FCC in 1922. In 2022, as Tammy mentioned, IPR became a community-based public radio network, separate from the universities. Our statewide network broadcasts from 27 stations across the state that reach the state of Iowa and beyond. And I'll show you a map of it here in a minute. But we reach 205,000 listeners across 3 streams, News Studio One, and Classical, and thousands more through our podcasts, website, newsletters, and our app. This is our mission. Our mission is to connect you to the news, music, information, and ideas that shape your world every day. And as I said, we do that. Oh, thank you. Oh. Okay, gotcha. Thank you for keeping me on track. We really believe in this connection piece, and that it's a really important role that we play here in the state, is not only providing the journalism and the news and the information, but finding a way to connect us as Iowans statewide. Tammy mentioned that we had a campaign a few years ago once we transitioned from being university licensee, we realized it was really important to lay a foundation as a community organization and as a nonprofit entity that was independent of the universities. And so we launched a $6.5 million campaign called A Resounding Future. And this is the vision that we had in that campaign, to tell Iowa's story, connecting more Iowans to relevant information, diverse perspectives, and culture that enriches our lives. We help create a more informed state, leading to engaged and vibrant communities. And thanks to the generous support of supporters, we exceeded our goal of $6.5 million and raised $8 million. So thank you. I know many of you here were part of that campaign, so thank you very much. So I did want to provide some history, and this may be a little bit too small for you really to see, but I like to show this slide. This is from, there's a publication called Current, which is a public broadcasting, it writes only about public broadcasting and public media. They have a history of public media, and the very first radio station to appear in that history is WOI. WOI was that experimented in broadcasting Morse code. So there was a professor in 1911, physics professor with the last name of Hoffman. He rigged a transmission line from the campus water tower to the engineering hall. He transmitted Morse code, and he communicated to other amateur radio stations at that time. And he was able to get that station licensed in 1912 with the call letters 9YI. So WOI not only was sort of the very beginnings of radio here in Iowa, but the very beginnings of radio and the very beginning of public radio. So we should be incredibly proud of that. I know I am, and I feel like the legacy that's been created here in Ames is an important legacy that we carry forward. And of course, I think of, the history and the connection to Ames, folks like Doug Brown, Don Forsling, Charity Nebbe, who grew up here and first got her time on the air here at WOI. So the connection to Iowa State and the Ames community remains strong, even though we're no longer a part of the universities. I also wanted to mention that WOI was a really important, was an important player in the formation of National Public Radio as well. They were, both WOI and WSUI were founding members of National Public Radio. Don Forsling was on the very first NPR board. And WOI was the very first station outside of Minnesota to air a Prairie Home Companion, which is a very, very important original sort of tent pole of public radio. And when All Things Considered first aired, there was a WOI story on the very first broadcast. So really, really deep roots here. I promised you a map. Here is the map of the IPR network. The big sort of dotted circles are our AM news stations, which really cover the state. You can't really see the outline of the state terribly well on this screen, but there is a state behind there, and the red circles are our News and Studio One stations, and then there's some green circles that represent our classical stations. Then most recently, we've added a new service, which is our 24-hour Studio One service, which is our modern music format. It's a music discovery format, which is based in, it's basically just in Des Moines right now. But you can hear it online. But a really important, I think, new service for us that we hope to grow. Our impact is over, nearly 300,000 people listen on the radio and across podcasts and digital streams. 1.3 million total visitors came to IPR.org last year. So we're growing in many ways and reaching more and more Iowans through lots of different services. We have talk shows, podcasts, local news and music stories on our website, and we have 5 nationally recognized newsletters at this point. Here's a little more on some of the digital services that we provide. We have a morning news podcast called Here First. Talk of Iowa and River to River, I don't have them all on here, but Talk of Iowa and River to River are each converted into podcasts every day. We have a garden variety podcast and newsletter, which is a collaboration with Iowa State Extension. We have a periodic series called Unsettled, which is on a variety of topics, a lot of them sort of gender focused. And then newsletters like Chatter, the Daily Digest, which a lot of people get their daily news through the Daily Digest, and then our music's newsletter called Studio One All Access. So we're really expanding beyond radio. We're even in the video world now, so you can find us on YouTube as well, with mostly music content at this point. We are powered by Iowans. Our budget is about $9.5 million this year, and this represents last year's budget. As you know, CPB funding was fully eliminated this year, so that 10% bubble is going away. And so we will be 100% community supported in the future. There's no state money anymore, no university support, and now no federal support. So it's entirely community supported, and the community is stepping up. And I want to really thank you for that. I mean, it's been amazing this year with the loss of CPB support, which is about $1 million loss. We've had huge influx of folks increasing their sustaining memberships, making significant gifts, coming to IPR for the first time. So we're super excited. It's been a great fundraising year. And the goal, of course, is to sustain that, which is going to be a challenge. I think people step up when they're in a crisis. They see a crisis and they step up. But this is a moment in which we need to really think about sustainability and finding ways to sustain that giving long term. So I did want to talk a little bit about just the media environment that we're all living in today and how that affects the work that we do. I think you're all aware, I will give you sort of a quick overview here, and then I'll give you a few more details on each of these, but there's just fewer journalists in the state and across the country, and we take that as a challenge to make sure that we're actually increasing journalism in the work that we do. There's the newspapers are shrinking, and some are going away. There's a big shift in where people get their information, away from traditional places to social media, to the web, to many places that are easily accessible by phone. Like the phone is sort of the entryway for most information these days. And then there's another challenge that we think about a lot, which is the kinds of information out there that poses as news but isn't really news, and the mistrust of media because of that, because there's so much information that's false. It's hard to know what's real. So first of all, the loss of journalism here in this journalists here in the state. Newsrooms are really shrinking. And Iowa lost more than 700 journalists over the last decade. That's a lot of journalists here in the state of Iowa. And as I mentioned, IPR has responded by trying to build and grow our journalism team. I wanted to point out that journalism, the importance of journalism from our perspective is not only well, there's two things, or many things, but one of them is good information leads to good decision making. If you don't have good information, if people don't have the same sort of basis of understanding, it's really hard to make good policy and to build communities the way that they should be built. In addition, the research shows that this is a Pew Research Center and the Knight Foundation. They show a strong connection between local news consumption and civic engagement. So the more people consume information, the more likely they are to be involved in their community. Voting in local elections, participating in civic organizations. So there's a really strong correlation between a strong journalism ecosystem in a community and the strength of that community. We're here to help build strong communities in the state. The total number of local U.S. newspapers between 2005 and 2023, you can see it's decreased dramatically. That top line is 2005, and we're down now significantly. These are non-daily and daily newspapers. There's been a net loss of almost 3,000 newspapers in this country since 2005. In addition, media habits are changing, and this is affecting us and many others, but You can see, and this is just a 10-year period. In 2014, look at AM/FM radio. 73% of people of the media people consumed was on radio, and today that's only 35%. So it's moving towards things that, once again, you can access on your cell phone, and there's just a rapid change on your computer. But mobile device is the one that's growing in a really significant fashion. So we're thinking about that as we could create content, and that's why we're very invested in the digital world, increasing the content on our website, our app, creating podcasts and others that people can consume with their phone. And then media literacy. As technology and media habits shift, misinformation and divisive narratives drown out the fact-based reporting. And web search has become as much, is used as much as websites or news apps now for finding information. So instead of going to a newspaper to find information, people are just going to the web and searching. And as you know, you're not always getting good information when you search on the website. So it just leads to this information environment that we know it makes our work even more important, that we're able to provide, direct people to a place where they can get information that's strong and real. Okay, that was the media. And so what as I mentioned, I think along the way is that the way we're viewing this moment is that we need to train more journalists. We need to increase the size of our newsroom. We need to fill the gap in local news. We need to expand our digital footprint. We need to recommit to our audience and how our audience wants to consume information. And we need to build community, because the whole social media and digital world is really leading to a fragmented world, and we believe that building community is a part of the answer. So innovation has always been a part of public radio here in Iowa, just evidenced by the beginning of WOI, and it's still essential to our success. Our Journalism Excellence Fund already has expanded our newsroom. The campaign allowed us to hire 3 new news reporters in our new staff inside of our organization, and we're committed to maintaining and continuing to grow that. We've created a fellowship program inside Iowa Public Radio that is built to train the next generation of journalism professionals here in the state. And our Innovation Fund supports the development of new ideas, services, and products. And we've developed new shows, podcasts, award-winning suite of newsletters, and others with that fund. So we're committed to continuing to play a critical role here in Iowa. We believe we have a really incredible, strong foundation, a really strong group of people who are supporting us in our work, and we're committed for the future. I wanted to give you just a couple of quick hits. One is on the horizon. We have some updates to WOI FM, a transmission line and antenna. It got a new transmitter a couple of years ago, but there's more work that needs to be done at that site. And then we're also going to be moving our master control from Iowa State campus to a new location. Can't tell you where yet, but it's coming soon, announcement coming soon, but we're committed to staying here in Ames. So that's coming up soon, and stay tuned for that. And then I wanted to just leave you with a few things that I'd like to encourage you to do. I'd like you to think about staying informed and engage. Follow what's happening in your community, not just the news, but the music, arts, and culture that make Iowa life great. Inform your friends and family. Invite them to listen to Iowa Public Radio. As news consumption drops, I think informal networks become more and more important for information. And use that information and knowledge to get involved, to vote, to advocate for things that matter to you and your community. I also want to encourage you to support local media, not just public radio, but just support the local media in your community. Subscribe to your newsletter. check out what's going on the Community Voice. Listen to KHOI. Support the media in your community, because it's a really important. I think it's essential for a really strong community to have strong media and strong information. And then I would say also improve your own media literacy. Really, when you're on the web, make sure you're looking at a good source. Think about what does the source of information want me to do or think? Is it real? So I think those are all things that you can do, and that I hope you do. And with that, I'll ask if there's any questions.
George Belitzos, and I have a question about, after all those years being affiliated with and working closely with Iowa State, why the separation? And then in addition, why are you having to move your broadcasting off of campus? So double question.
Yeah, two questions. One is, over time, the Iowa Public Radio was formed in 2004, and during that period, the amount of funding support from the universities decreased over time. And there was an intent by the universities to eventually eliminate eliminate some funding for us. That was part of their vision for creating Iowa Public Radio, and so that came to be. And it came to be particularly right around 2020, during the pandemic, is when they notified us that there would be no more cash support. And so when that happened, our board and the Board of Regents both thought it was important to have a conversation about who then owns the network. And we felt that if there was going to be no more university support, that it would be smart for us to own the network and to be able to really to manage it and own it fully. And so we began that conversation, and they sold us the network. They were very committed to continuing the network that they created. And so they sold it to us for $1, which was a bargain. And so we were very appreciative of how the Regents helped us manage that. And I think it really does set us on a stronger footing to be on our own. So that's the answer to your first question. And the second one, so starting in 2022, when we became owners, we started paying for some of the services on campus. And we ramped up to full rent costs starting, I guess, and this year is the first year really we're paying full cost. But at the same time, the university had some other ideas for the use of the space that we're using on campus. So it forced us to move. So we're now looking for that new location. We'll need to be out in about 2.5 years. So we have a little bit of time, and we do have our eyes on a particular location, and we have Jason's in charge of this project, but it'll be, we have a strong timeline and have ability to get it done in time. But it will be an expensive project. Sometime I'm sure Jason would love to show you master control. It's pretty fun. It is. It's a really fun feature of our network. But anyway, that's the reality, is that the university really has sights on that space, so we need to move.
I'm Mike Kitchell. I'm a volunteer writer for the Ames Voice. It's a new free email newsletter, comes out once a week or maybe more often. So I'd like to encourage more people to sign up for it, amesvoice.com. It's free. And so all of us are volunteer writers for the Ames Voice, except our 2 editors are the only people that are actually paid. But my question for you is, a lot of us are baby boomers in this room. With the generational changes, how do we keep people from getting into their own little world of the social media, and how do we have more in common with our knowledge of the community?
I think that's something we're all struggling with, right? And I think the work that you're doing at the Ames Voice is a part of the solution. It's why we've moved into newsletters. It's why we're focused on our website. It's why we're moving into podcasts. Is because we know that that's the future. And so, but I mean, honestly, our biggest audience by far is still on the radio. And so we think there continues to be a future there. But I think we need to listen to what our kids and how they want to consume media and provide them with that information. We have a lot of really young creative folks who work for us, and they're helping guide the way, thinking about how to create information sources for this future. Because I agree with you. It's like without that kind of unifying information, it's really hard to develop community. It's essential. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ashley Thompson with United Way of Story County.
Yeah.
I'm one of those, I'll say younger, but others may not think so. But I listen to Here First every morning on my way to work. This is also a shout out. I miss Under the Golden Dome. Can it come back sometime? Policy nerd over here. But just looking at everything that's changed over the last couple of years, what are you excited about? So, and just kind of following along with funding cuts and all of that, and being a nonprofit philanthropic, it's easy to get down in the dumps. So is there anything kind of beyond on the horizon that you can share with us that you're excited about?
You know, one of the things I'm really excited about is our new Studio One format. I think it's providing us a way to really think in a very multimedia way about our work, and it's aimed at a younger audience, at least a little bit younger audience. And so what you'll see if you go to the Studio One website is really good information about arts and about music that's playing in the state. There's a nice calendar there. It's artist interviews. It's video. And so we're really focused on supporting the local music scene in general. And so I think it's giving us a little bit of a laboratory for thinking about how to think in a multimedia way about our work. So that's one thing I'm super excited about. That 24-hour Studio One stream, I think, is a really, really strong addition to the work that we're doing, and I'm really hopeful that we can grow that. I would also say that some of our newsletters are really fun. Like, I love Garden Variety. I think it's another way that we can create community. You know, it's both a podcast and a newsletter. Chatter is an arts and culture. We're really doing a lot more in the arts and culture space. We have an arts and culture reporter now, and that Chatter newsletter is an arts and culture newsletter. And I think that's another community building kind of opportunity. And to your question, we're thinking a lot about events now too, and whether there's ways that we can bring the community together with events. So those are all things that I'm excited about.
Oh, thank you. I do listen to IPR and really enjoy it. A question I have, I feel, many people have shared this with me too, and have friends, and they feel rather inundated with the domestic politics. So they've gotten tuned off to quite a bit of media because of that. I've also done a lot of international traveling. So I stream a lot of BBC, and I also enjoy Al Jazeera News too. I listen to that quite a bit too.
Yep.
So I guess my question is, are you making any movement into international? I know you're very community-based, but are you making the international move?
Well, we do have BBC on our air, so you can catch that in late afternoon before All Things Considered. We do have BBC and BBC World News at night. So we agree that it's important to have that perspective on our air. There is news fatigue, no doubt about it, and we see it in waves on our air in our audience. And so some of the things that we've created to try and sort of help do that, I mean, you'll notice on our daily digest, we have the Sunnyside Project. So we're trying to focus on some sort of fun, positive things that are happening in our world. I don't think you'll see us getting into doing international work, but I think part of the thing that's exciting about digital work is that it has no boundaries, right? I mean, part of the reason we've seen success with, we have a podcast called Caucus Land, which is produced just during the caucuses, and that has national appeal. So you can appeal to a much broader audience with some of these products than you can with the broadcast work that we do. So does that hopefully that gives you a flavor of what we're thinking.
Randy Olson here. I don't know if you have this capacity, but do you have a sense of what's your most listened to show over the course of a week? What
Morning edition?
Morning edition. How about the weekend lineup? Is there
Wait, don't tell me.
Excellent. Yeah. Perfect. This American Life still hit the mark?
This American Life is not one of our biggest shows, but it certainly has strong audience. Yeah. Yep. I think some of those shows that have been on for a while, I think one thing that I'm super proud of when I think of public radio is the storytelling genre that really grew up here and I think led, frankly, to the podcast movement. So, but things like This American Life, The Moth, those are great shows, and I think they're shows about shared humanity, which I just think we need so much of right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Myrna Johnson, everybody. Myrna Johnson, give her a round of applause. So we have a book we'd like you to sign to give to a 2-year-old on their checkup. We have dogs and we have cats. You can pick which one you are, if you're a dog or a cat person. Okay, we'll do that then. So please sign the back and we'll make sure that gets for Raising Readers. So appreciate you. Thank you again for being here today. Another round of applause for Myrna. Real quick, before I get into closing, I was reminded we are collecting cans, so don't throw those away. We're going to recycle cans, so there's a spot over there as well. So that and real knives only, go that direction. Thank you, everybody. Today's keynote here, I was reminded of just how important that factual and truthful information is probably for generations and probably the entire world of where you're getting your information. And it couldn't be any more potent today or pertinent today than it is. So appreciate all you do to help bring that to the Iowans and throughout, and knowing how difficult that can be at times. So really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And with that, may we always give thanks, more so than just on Thanksgiving. So be thankful for what we have throughout the year, and we'll close it out with that in our 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.